I'm going to do a gestural drawing of a landscape. Normally, we consider gesture drawing as reserved for figures. But if we consider that a gesture is something quick and intuitive, why can't we apply that to landscape as well as to figures? So that's what I'm going to try to do. I always should take down this upper corner. I always have to move that clip, but I can do it quickly, which is basically why I have it there. I'm going to blend in some background here. My pan pastels are not with me at the moment because, as you know, I'm the traveling artista and things kept getting moved around or packed or one thing or another. This is my general composition, a lot of verticals, and there's going to be a stream here. So I've got some horizontals and a diagonal of this stream. There, laying in the initial composition. I want fairly hard pastels at this point. Nothing too soft. That's how that stream goes back into the distance. I'm not going to spell it all out. Let's see, I need some lighter trees back here. I want to lighten this some more. It's just that mauve purple is coming through almost too strong. So let's bring that down. Let's figure out what the ground is doing. I'm going to use soft sage type green for the ground area in here, and here is that stream is going to come out very dramatically toward us. I want to create a great sense of depth in this. All right, step back. Soften this because it's in haze. I'm going to go horizontally here since that's ground. A little bit better there. All right, let's throw in some of these tall fir trees. Very subtle as they are very far back. Some back in here. Indicating, again with gesture, some of the masses that will be happening in this sketch. I like sketches. I like the freeness, the freedom, the freeness, and that a sketch brings to artwork. When I was traveling, well, many times in Europe, when I'd go to museums, one of the first things I am drawn to, I mean, we always go to the masterworks, but one of my favorite things is to see the process, the masterworks sketches. In the Rodin Museum in Paris, which was originally his home, there's a room of many of his plaster sketches. Of course, he would use an atelier, a group of people that would measure his little plaster sketches or clay, whatever he was using, probably often clay, and then he'd mold them into a plaster. And the atelier, the workers would measure them precisely and then translate them into the marble, and he would oversee that and finish it. A lot of what you're seeing in the marble pieces is not his direct work necessarily. Now his bronzes are gorgeous because he worked that in either clay or wax to begin with, and then they would just cast those original clay or wax pieces into the bronze. But my point being that I love the freshness of a loose piece of art before it gets so defined and so precisely worked that it loses much of its freshness. It's that initial inspiration as to why the artist chose to paint that particular image. I want these a little further back. I think I need now something a little more in the greenish blue family. Let's compare that. That's pretty light. I might use that as the light in behind. I want to consider, as I'm going up, the space between the trunks and then some of the horizontal branches in that distance that are reaching out into that light. So it breaks it up through here, and by using the negative space, we create the feeling of branches and trees in this distance. At the same time, you need to remember, you need to keep an idea of where these trunks are going up through so you don't break those trunks up. And since I have this set up for the camera to see, I can't see too well because I'm looking through my hand, so that you can observe a little better what my hand and my marks are doing. Soften that as it goes up. Let's intensify it as we bring it down. Step back. It's a pretty nice glow. I want to break some of this up a little more. Let's lose some of these edges. So some of the edges will be sharp and some will be softened. It's what often people call the lost and found edges. 1, 2, 3 little marks right there. Let's adjust that so they're not so even. Okay. I'm using a much lighter hand, a much lighter touch over in that area, so it's not going to pick up the strength that is in this area, which is my primary light. I'm going to break this up a little more too. More like that. Okay. Off to the side on my, is that showing? Yes. On my sandpaper, I'm going to bring down some pastel, pick it up with my finger and just touch. So I set down a good amount of pastel and I touch here and there in the areas that I don't want much pastel. Just a soft indication of some glowing happening in these trees. Maybe a little more down here. This need as a line. Light shining through the trunks of those trees in the distance. This is quite a clump still right here, so I'm going to break that one up a little bit too. In this case, I think that's in the wrong spot. I've lost one of those primary trunks coming down. This one. So here I have my torchon, or tortillon, and I'm just dragging it across the pastel to lift some of that up and redefine a couple of the trunks in there. Sometimes it has enough residual pastel or charcoal on the tip of this to bring in some changes, a very subtle change. Right. Next, get some of that green shining through. Which one is this? It's that darker one. This is some plants, just a little shrubbery happening off in the distance in this forest. There we go. Let's bring this a little bit forward. Catch the light as it comes through this trees and down through this clearing. Ever slight clearing in that woods. Majority of the light. A little hint of it here. Irregularity in nature. Always want things quite irregular. Makes it more interesting, makes it seem more natural. Let's try this. Is that more that color? Just some dragging, brushing that up as it comes down through. I'm going to draw this across near the lighter because underneath I want that to be more of a shadow in the, like a little bank of this stream coming down. So I'm going to consider that. So we want to keep the darker on the bottom side of these strokes that I'm putting down. One word that keeps going through my head is mist. I want to keep this misty, foggy forest, the gesture of what it is. Now I need a deeper color, but I need to be careful. I want it kind of a greenish, grayish, without being too deep. That's good. Look at that. That's nice. It's not too much of a value difference, but it helps to emphasize the edge of that little bank that's coming down into the stream. Try to have your marks follow as it goes up. So the edge of the water is here, and then this kind of slants up and away. Over here as well. And you don't have to spell it all out, just a gentle little amount can do really well. I need a gray blue indicate that water. I test it here, but I'm going to test it over here. It's going to look a little different against this. So water finds its own level, but it's also reflecting the light. So finding its own level, it becomes horizontal, but as it reflects the light, you get nice vertical strokes. Let's start with that. You don't want any line going directly off the corner, so we need to soften and vignette that in there, the edge of that stream, and blend some of this water in. Don't want too much of that purple showing through. Shadow coming across. I love this. This is one of my Jack Richesons, so it's got a good amount of grit. I like that. I want to bring that, as it'll catch here and there on the paper, it'll be good for those vertical reflections coming down from the light in the distance. Lay it back, lay it flat as it goes back. This is just almost a very horizontal line. That's going to push that back into the distance. Let's see if I have something like this, but a little darker. Ah, there it is. It still has a paper on it. Look at that. Get this paper off, good part of it. No, I don't have time for that right now. So this is a homemade gray that I created. Shadows going across. There's water here, and over here is some ice. So let's edge some of that ice in, base of it, little cracks. That's not quite a sharp enough edge, so ice. Little lines, straight lines to be cracks. And indications of it. Do not have to spell it all out. Softer down here. Touching for some cracks. Just finding a rather sharp edge on a piece of pastel and then just touching it to that. And now we're going to bring in our ice on top. Looking for the right color. This seems very bright. I'm going to touch this here to see how it looks actually on the painting. Not quite as bright as I thought. More interesting shapes here. Step back. The light's coming down, catching on this ice. And I need it to be a little more angular, so I am going to pick up a piece and hope that this works. That's not white. Of new pastel. Check the edge that I have, not very sharp. I could sharpen it, but this is a quick study, so let's try it here. little line. I think I need to switch my brand to Pastel, something softer, to lay over the top of this. Kind of icy snow. Let's pick up an edgy Pastel again. Back off. I think we need a little more shadow under some of the ice. Too strong. I'm going to glaze over that a little bit. Soften that. Define the water over here a little bit more. Hint of a soft gray blue. Light, darker, still a little too light, better. I think it's time for this to rest. I can come back in later, check out some more details. I like the haziness of the trees going back. That one sticks a little bright. Just going to take my rag, soften that a little bit. Maybe add a hint more light in that grass back there. Just a hint. Gotta keep it kind of in the gray. Bringing it down toward the spring melt in the water. Good, just kind of lost that. That. Well, that's kind of fun, but it's a start. It gives you an idea, something you can play with, move along. I want this piece to be smaller, that piece of ice. A little more drama there. More here too. Okay, I think it's best to leave it alone now. Notice I keep my pinky for my lights. I can use my other fingers for blending my deeper colors. Yeah, fun little gestural, atmospheric, tonal sketch. It's kind of fun. I'm gonna live with this a little bit and then decide what to do with it after. So it's nice to just get something down, get something created. first iteration and then a few more touch-ups, and this is where it is now. I kind of like it.